The award for best gameplay mechanic goes to the game with a feature that is charming, inventive, or just otherwise really neat. A few honorable mentions at the start here. In the puzzle game, a little to the left, there is a hint system. Not everyone will be able to pick up on one of the solutions right away, and so if you pause the game at any time, it is possible to get a hint. What's neat about this hint feature is that it's actually drawn on a notepad, but it's been scribbled over completely. You cannot make out the hint at all unless you start erasing that layer of scribbles, and it's up to you, the player, how much of those scribbles you want to erase. So if you only want a little bit of a hint, erase just a portion of the solution. Or, if you're fed up with that puzzle, ready to move on, and don't plan to go back to it on your own, you could ultimately erase the entire hint. I mentioned this during the Best Narrative reward, but As Dusk Falls has a very interesting multiplayer feature. Unfortunately, I never got to try this out with friends of mine, although I would have liked to. But I did get a little taste of it from playing the game in single player. At the end of the chapter, the game gives you a personality test. Based on the decisions you made up to that point, it'll tell you that maybe you're virtuous, or that you're very caring about others, or you prioritize your own safety. I haven't seen all of the possible outcomes, naturally, because I only played the game once and I was by myself, but imagining that feature in a multiplayer setting and being able to discuss how your votes might have differed and what that says about each of you, it just sounds like a really nice social starter. I never did a full review of Bayonetta 3, and I haven't had that much of a chance to talk about it during these awards, and if I had to summarize it, it would come down to more Bayonetta. Like, to me, it didn't feel too different from its predecessors, especially Bayonetta 2. In some cases, it even just felt like a continuation picking up right from where we left off. However, it is ultimately a new game that brought some new features with it, and the biggest one is the Demon Slave. In Bayonetta 3, Bayonetta herself can form contracts with demons in a new sort of way. You have direct control over them, and that leads to some new interesting set pieces as well as some new options in combat. You can equip 3 demons at a time that you can switch between on the fly, although you can always go into the pause menu and switch out your arsenal if you feel the need. Each one has a signature ability, and so that will help you strategize how you want to take down larger monsters. But apart from that, it is just a really cool showpiece. But Platinum is known for big spectacle and big action, and this is their way of scaling that up for Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta is not the only franchise that scaled up this year. Pokémon did much the same thing with the Generation 9 games Scarlet and Violet. They opened things up to a much bigger world that they could not handle in terms of technical issues, but that's not what this award is about. The big thing here is that they introduced a new mechanic for battles called terastallizing. A Pokemon's Terra type allows it to terastallize into that type. And it may be a type that it already has, or it may be a type that it doesn't. So, let's say a Fire-type Pokemon has the Fire Terra type. If you terastallize, it will strengthen its fire moves and give it an even bigger bonus to that typing. However, you may also be able to terastallize it to something that's not from its original type, which will change what it's weak to and what it's strong against. While I don't think the CPU enemies in the single-player campaign brought this mechanic to its full potential use, it creates a new layer of customization and strategy that I think a lot of players have taken a liking to. While those mechanics are all nice iterations, ultimately, the winner goes to something brand new. That winner is Tinykin. While the game might seem like Pikmin to an outside observer, especially if you look at the last 2 letters of the title, it actually plays a lot differently from that because it's predominantly a 3D platformer. The Tinykin are like Pikmin in some ways, but it plays a lot more like Pikmin 3 Mission Mode, where you're not going out and getting resources to create new Tinykin from scratch. All of them already exist in the overworld, and it's your goal to find them in order to increase your own traversal capacities. For example, one type of Tinykin can be used to build a ladder, which will allow you to ascend to higher areas, and the more you collect, the higher in the level you can travel. There's another type of Tinykin that allows you to build bridges across particularly long gaps over which you might need to carry something. Plus, we have some more basic Tinykin, like those that will explode to destroy certain objects. But what I like about this mechanic is the way that it feeds directly into itself. You start by exploring the world. In doing so, you find Tinykin. And by finding Tinykin, you can explore more of the world, which allows you to find more Tinykin, which allows you to keep exploring the world, and you see it just goes on and on like that, until you've looked in every nook and cranny and gotten every collectible that you might wish to obtain. It's an addictive sort of setup, but that's not too bad because the game is smaller in scope and you'll be able to finish it relatively quickly, even with collecting everything in the world. And so, ultimately, it's just nice and fun while it lasts. But the fact that it left me wanting more is what makes it the best gameplay mechanic of 2022.